The golden hues of the Tuscan sunset painted the rolling hills in strokes of amber and rose, casting a serene glow over the sprawling villa where Sophia Reynolds and Ethan Harlow had chosen to spend their honeymoon. It had been exactly 3 months since their lavish wedding at the Williams estate, a ceremony that had graced the covers of every major magazine from Vogue to Forbes. The world had watched as the two hidden billionaires, Sophia, heir to the Williams Holdings fortune, and Ethan, the prodigal son of the Nash global empire, exchanged vows under a canopy of blooming roses, their union symbolizing not just love, but a defiant triumph over scandal and betrayal. Victor Langford, the tech mogul who had once cast Sophia out into a storm of rain and rage, had faded into the shadows, his company absorbed and his pride shattered. Or so they thought. Sophia stood on the villa's terracotta balcony, her hand resting gently on the subtle swell of her abdomen. At 5 months pregnant, she carried their child with the quiet grace of a woman who had weathered tempests and emerged unbreakable. The silk of her sundress fluttered in the warm evening breeze, carrying the scent of lavender from the gardens below. Ethan approached from behind, his arms wrapping around her waist with the familiar tenderness that still sent butterflies dancing in her stomach. He kissed the nape of her neck, his breath warm against her skin. "You look like you're glowing even more than usual," he murmured, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through her. "Is it the Italian sun? Or is our little one already stealing the show?" Sophia turned in his embrace, her dark eyes sparkling with mischief as she traced a finger along his jaw. "A bit of both, but mostly you. You've been insufferable with all this honeymoon spoiling. Yesterday it was the private chef. Today it's that ridiculous hot air balloon ride over the vineyards. What comes next is a fleet of gondolas in the pool." Ethan chuckled, the sound deep and genuine, pulling her closer until their foreheads touched. "Only the best for my queen. Besides, after everything we've been through, we deserve this. No paparazzi, no board meetings, no ghosts from the past. Just us, this villa, and the promise of our family." He placed his hand over hers on her belly, and they stood there in companionable silence, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The villa, a secluded Renaissance gem owned by Ethan's family for generations, felt like a world apart from the chaos of their public lives. Here, Sophia could forget the relentless headlines following their revelation at the tech gala 6 months prior. The 3 billionaire scandal, they'd called it. A tale of hidden fortunes, shattered engagements, and a love that had risen from the ashes of betrayal. Victor had tried to wield it as a weapon, but in the end, it had only amplified their story, turning Sophia and Ethan into icons of resilient romance. As the sky deepened to twilight, a soft chime echoed inside the villa. The doorbell, an unusual sound in their private paradise. Ethan frowned, glancing toward the open French doors. "The staff knows not to disturb us after 7. I'll see who it is." Sophia nodded, though a faint unease stirred in her chest. She watched him disappear into the grand foyer, his broad shoulders filling the doorway. Moments later, he returned, holding a single, unmarked envelope. "No courier," he said, turning it over in his hands. "I just left it at the gate, with instructions for the housekeeper to deliver it personally. No return address, but the seal. It's wax, like something out of a Gothic novel." He broke the seal with his thumb, unfolding the crisp parchment inside. Sophia's curiosity piqued. She stepped closer, peering over his shoulder. The handwriting was elegant, almost archaic, inked in deep crimson. "Dearest Sophia, congratulations on your union and the life growing within you." How poetic that from one storm another blooms. But some shadows linger longer than others. Enclosed, you will find a token from a past you thought buried, a photograph that ties the threads of fate tighter than you know. Victor Langford may have faded, but the sins of our fathers echo eternally. Ask yourself, what if the child you carry is not just yours and Ethan's, but a bridge to secrets that could unravel empires? Meet me in Florence at midnight, under the Ponte Vecchio, if you wish to sever this thread before it binds you all. Come alone. Yours in shadowed truth, a friend from the rain. Ethan's face darkened as he read aloud, his voice steady but laced with steel. A bluff, surely. Victor's style is petty and dramatic, but this, He pulled a small faded photograph from the envelope, holding it to the fading light. Sophia's breath caught in her throat. The image was grainy, sepia-toned, capturing a moment from nearly 30 years ago. A young woman resembling Sophia, her mother Elena Reynolds, stood arm in arm with a man whose features were unmistakable, even in youth. Victor Langford, no older than 25, his arm possessively around Elena's waist. They were laughing, carefree, against a bustling New York skyline, the kind of candid shot that screamed young love. On the back, in the same crimson ink, Elena and Victor, 1995, before the fall. Her hand flew to her mouth, the world tilting slightly as memories flooded back. Whispers from her childhood about her mother's brief, tumultuous romance before she met Sophia's father, the founder of Williams Holdings. Elena had always dismissed it as a youthful folly, a summer fling that ended when Victor chose ambition over affection. But this suggested more, a deeper entanglement. And the implications twisted like a knife. If Victor had been her mother's lover, did that make him? No, it couldn't. The timelines didn't align for blood ties, but the emotional web, the business rivalries, it painted Victor not as a jilted ex, but as a man with roots tangled in the very soil of her family's legacy. Ethan crumpled the photo slightly in his fist, his jaw clenching. He'll use this to claw his way back. After the gala, his company's dissolution left him penniless and bitter. This is his revenge, stirring old ghosts to haunt us. But why now? Why during our honeymoon? Sophia shook her head, forcing composure as she smoothed the creases from the image. Because he's desperate. The note says midnight under the Ponte Vecchio. Florence is only an hour away. We could drive and confront whoever sent this. End it before it poisons everything. Ethan's eyes flashed with protectiveness, his hand instinctively covering her belly. Absolutely not. You're pregnant, Sophia. We call security and get my father's team on it. Let them trace the sender. This friend from the rain reeks of Victor's theatrics. Probably some lackey he paid to play messenger. But Sophia pulled away gently, her mind racing. The note had struck a chord deeper than fear. It was curiosity, laced with dread. She'd spent her life hiding her fortune to find true love, only to uncover layers of deception in those closest to her. Victor had accused her of lies once. Now, this photo suggested her own family history held shadows that had never been illuminated. What if there were more? What if this bridge to secrets involved not just her past, but their children's future? Inheritance disputes, corporate sabotage, or worse. I have to know, she said softly, her voice resolute. For Alex, for our son. If Victor's tangled in my mother's story, it could affect the holdings, the trusts we've set up. We can't let it fester. I'll go alone, as it says. You stay here, keep the villa secure. Ethan stepped forward, cupping her face in his hands, his brown eyes fierce with love and worry. You think I'd let you face this alone? After everything, the rain that night I found you, the gala where we bared our souls. We're in this together, Sophia. Always. She leaned into his touch, the warmth grounding her swirling thoughts. But the clock on the mantel ticked onward, the twilight deepening to inky blue. The drive to Florence would take them through winding roads flanked by cypress trees, under a moon that promised revelations as sharp as its crescent edge. Reluctantly, Ethan nodded, grabbing his keys from the hall table. Fine. But we bring backup, discreet. My driver, Marco, is ex-military, and if this turns out to be a trap, then we end it, Sophia finished, her chin lifting with the steel shed forged in boardrooms and broken hearts, for good. The Ferrari purred to life in the garage's depths, its engine a low growl against the night's hush. Marco, a burly Italian with a scar across his cheek from years in private security, took the wheel. At the same time, Ethan and Sophia settled in the back, the envelope clutched between them like a talisman of trouble. The road unspooled before them, headlights cutting through the darkness, illuminating fleeting glimpses of olive groves and distant hilltop villages. Sophia stared out the window, the photograph burning in her mind. Elena and Victor, laughing, young, oblivious to the empires they'd one day build and burn. Tell me about your mother, Ethan said quietly, breaking the silence. You never talk much about her early days. before Williams Holdings swallowed her life. Sophia sighed, tracing the edge of the photo. She was fierce, like me, in ways I didn't see until now. Met my father at a charity gala, love at first sight, or so the story goes. But before that, summers in the Hamptons, fleeting romances. Victor was one, I guess. A rising star in tech, charming but ruthless. She broke it off when he started talking mergers instead of dreams. Dad swept in and built the empire with her. But if this photo is real, if there were deeper ties. Ethan squeezed her hand. Then we face it, like we faced Victor before. Remember the gala? You took the mic and owned the room. You're Sophia Reynolds, billionaire, mother-to-be, unbreakable. She smiled faintly, but the unease lingered. The Ponte Vecchio loomed ahead as they entered Florence, its ancient arches spanning the Arno River like the spine of history itself. Midnight struck as Marco parked in a shadowed alley, the bridge's lamps casting golden pools on the water below. The air was thick with the scent of river mist and distant gelato stands, tourists thinning as the hour grew late. "Stay here," Ethan instructed Marco, who nodded, hand on the concealed holster at his belt. "Well, signal if needed." Hand in hand, they crossed the bridge, the cobblestones uneven underfoot. Locksmiths' shops and jewelry stalls stood dark, their wares glinting faintly in the lamplight. No one waited at the center. No shadowy figure, no dramatic confrontation. Just the gentle lap of the river and the echo of their footsteps. "A trap?" Ethan whispered, scanning the arches. Before Sophia could respond, a rustle sounded from the shadows, a figure emerging, cloaked in a long coat, face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. The friend from the rain, perhaps, but as they approached, the figure lowered the hat, revealing not Victor, but a woman in her 50s, sharp-featured and elegant, with eyes that mirrored Elena. Sophia's aunt, Lydia Reynolds, the family's shadowy consigliere. "Aunt Lydia?" Sophia gasped, frozen in place. Lydia smiled thinly, her voice a silken whisper. "Not quite the reunion you expected, dear niece, but necessary. Victor didn't send the letter, I did. And the photo? It's only the beginning. Your mother's affair with him wasn't just romance. It was a deal, a secret merger that could topple Williams Holdings if exposed. Your child. Alex carries blood that ties two empires in ways that could destroy us all." Ethan's arm tensed around Sophia, his free hand inching toward his phone. "What do you want?" Lydia's eyes gleamed. Protection for the family. But first, the truth, Victor knows. And he's coming for his share of the fortune, the child, everything. Midnight was just the prelude. The real storm breaks at dawn. As she melted back into the shadows, a distant engine roared to life, a black sedan speeding toward the bridge. Victor, or worse? Sophia clutched the photo to her chest, the weight of legacies crashing down like thunder. Their honeymoon paradise had shattered, and in its place rose a tempest threatening to drown their fragile happiness before their son even drew breath. The sterile hum of the hospital room in Florence did little to soothe the whirlwind in Sophia's mind as she lay propped on crisp white sheets, her hand cradled in Ethan's. Dawn had broken over the Arno, painting the windows in soft pinks and golds, but the revelation from Aunt Lydia lingered like a fog, thick and unyielding. The midnight meeting had spiraled into chaos when the black sedan barreled onto the Ponte Vecchio, its headlights slicing through the night like accusatory fingers. It wasn't Victor at the wheel, but two men in dark suits, hired muscle, Lydia had later confessed, sent to silence her before she could spill more family secrets. Ethan had shoved Sophia behind a jewelry stall, just as the car swerved, tires screeching on ancient stone. Marco had leaped into action, firing warning shots that scattered the assailants and sent them fleeing into the labyrinth of Florence's alleys. In the aftermath, the stress had hit Sophia like a tidal wave. Contractions, false alarms, the doctor assured them, but enough to warrant an overnight stay for monitoring. Asseters beeped steadily beside her. Ethan paced the room, his phone glued to his ear, and coordinated with his security team back at the villa. Aunt Lydia's words echoed in Sophia's ears. Your child carries blood that ties two empires. The photo of her mother and Victor wasn't just a memento. It was a map to buried scandals, mergers sealed in shadows, and fortunes built on deceptions that could crumble under scrutiny. Ethan ended his call and sank into the chair beside her bed, his face etched with exhaustion and resolve. The teams are sweeping the city for those goons. Lydia's is in protective custody at a safe house, my father's people. She promised more details once you're stable. But Sophia, that photo. Elena and Victor, if they had a more profound connection, if there's truth to it. Sophia squeezed his hand, forcing a smile despite the knot in her chest. My mother never mentioned him beyond a passing fling, but Lydia wouldn't lie, not about this. Williams Holdings was built on steel and secrets. Maybe Victor was the crack we never saw. And Alex, our son, if his bloodline loops back to Victor through her, it could mean contested claims, boardroom coups. We need to get home, Ethan. Face this head on. He nodded, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. Home it is. Private jet leaves in 2 hours, but first, rest. The doctor said no more drama until after the baby. The flight back to New York was a blur of luxury and tension, the Gulfstream 5 slicing through clouds while Sophia dozed fitfully, one hand on her belly. Ethan watched over her, his mind a storm of strategies, lawyers to summon, investigators to deploy, contingencies for every what-if. By the time they touched down at Teterboro, the city sprawled below like a glittering beast, hungry for their story. Paparazzi swarmed the tarmac, but Ethan's security detail carved a path to the waiting Escalade, shielding Sophia from flashing cameras and shouted questions. Honeymoon horror? Billionaire brawl in Italy. Their new home awaited on the outskirts of the Hamptons, a sprawling modernist estate of glass and stone, designed by a starchitect to blend seamlessly with the dunes. It was a far cry from the cramped apartment where their love had blossomed. Yet, it felt like an extension of that humble sanctuary. Sunlit kitchens for Ethan's experimental breakfasts, a library stocked with Sophia's favorite novels, and a nursery painted in soft blues, waiting for the life it would soon cradle. As the car crunched over the gravel drive, Sophia felt a flicker of peace amid the chaos. This was their fortress, built for the family they'd fought to create. The following weeks unfolded in a rhythm of anticipation and quiet joy, the kind that bloomed in stolen moments away from the world's glare. Sophia threw herself into nesting, her billionaire instincts tempered by the simple thrill of folding tiny onesies and assembling a crib under Ethan's watchful eye. Ever the devoted partner, he balanced board meetings at Nash Global with paternity classes, his once rigid schedule now a tapestry of ultrasounds and midnight cravings. One crisp autumn morning, 3 months after their return, the first real contractions hit. Not the Braxton Hicks of Florence, but the deep, insistent waves that announced Alex's arrival. The drive to the private birthing suite at Mount Sinai was a comedy of errors, Ethan white-knuckling the wheel, while Sophia breathed through the pain, cracking jokes to ease the tension. You planned a takeover of a Fortune 500 company without breaking a sweat, she teased between grips on the door handle. But one baby and you're sweating like a rookie. He shot her a grin, though his eyes betrayed the fear. This is bigger than any deal. This is us, creating life. If I screw up the merger, we lose billions. Screw this up. You won't, she assured him, as another contraction crested. Because you're not just Ethan Harlow, heir to empires. You're the man who carried me through a storm. You've got this. The labor stretched into a marathon, 18 hours of grit and grace, Sophia anchoring herself to Ethan's hand as doctors coached and monitors trilled. When Alex finally emerged at dawn, his cry was a fierce declaration against the world, the room filled with a light that rivaled the rising sun. 8 pounds, 2 ounces, with a shock of dark hair like his mother's and eyes that held the warm brown of his father's. Ethan cut the cord with trembling hands, tears carving paths down his cheeks as the nurse placed the bundled infant in Sophia's arms. He's perfect, Ethan whispered, leaning down to kiss her forehead, then Alex's tiny brow. Look at him, our son. Alex Reynolds Harlow, the name we'd chosen, a bridge between legacies, unyielding. Sophia gazed at the miracle in her arms, exhaustion giving way to overwhelming love. His fingers curled around hers, instinctive and trusting, and in that touch, the shadows of Victor and Lydia receded, if only for a moment. "Welcome to the world, little one. You're already braver than both your parents combined." The early days blurred into a haze of feedings and firsts, the estate transforming into a cocoon of new parenthood. Ethan navigated billion-dollar negotiations and discovered the art of midnight diaper changes with hilarious ineptitude. One particularly chaotic night, as Alex wailed at 2 a.m., Ethan fumbled a fresh diaper, sending a cascade of wipes flying across the nursery like confetti. Sophia, bleary-eyed from the rocker, burst into laughter despite the fatigue. "You're supposed to slide it under, not launch it like a rocket," she gasped, scooping up the mess while Ethan squirmed Alex into submission. He paused, powder dusted across his shirt like war paint, and grinned sheepishly. "In my defense, beau boardrooms don't kick back. But hey, practice makes perfect. Watch this." He executed a clumsy but triumphant wrap, securing the tabs with exaggerated flair. Ta-da! Diaper masterclass complete. Sophia applauded softly, the sound drawing a gummy smile from Alex. "See? He's impressed. You're a natural, Ethan. However, skip the victory dance next time, as he's got reflux." Their laughter echoed softly, a balm against the undercurrent of worry that never entirely ebbed. Security had tightened, cameras at every gate, bodyguards blending into the staff, and weekly briefings from private investigators tracing Lydia's leads. Victor had gone radio silent since the gala, and his downfall was complete with the absorption of Langford Tech into a rival conglomerate. But the photo gnawed at them. A digital forensics team confirmed its authenticity, dated to 1995, capturing Elena and Victor at a Hamptons gala, arms entwined in a way that spoke of more than friendship. Lydia, sequestered in a Manhattan penthouse under Nash's protection, had doled out fragments. Victor wasn't just Elena's lover. He'd been her silent partner in early Williams ventures, funneling seed money through offshore accounts. When Elena chose Sophia's father, Victor felt betrayed, sabotaging deals that nearly bankrupted the fledgling empire. The photo was his trophy, a reminder of the what-if that festered into lifelong rivalry. "We keep it contained," Ethan insisted during late-night strategy sessions, Alex asleep in a bassinet between them. "No public ripples. But if he surfaces—" Sophia nodded, tracing patterns on the baby's blanket. "Hell, use Alex as leverage. Claim some moral high ground through blood or business. But we're ready. Williams and Nash united? Unstoppable." Yet fragility lurked in the bliss. As golden hour bathed the nursery in warmth one evening, Ethan lifted Alex for a burping session. The infant nestled against his shoulder. Sophia watched from the doorway, heart swelling at the sight, her fierce protector reduced to cooing nonsense, bouncing gently on socked feet. "You're gonna conquer the world, kiddo," Ethan murmured, "just like your mom. Most intelligent, strongest woman I know." A knock interrupted the idyll. Marcus, their head of security, a grizzled ex-Marine with a voice like gravel. "Sir, ma'am, perimeter breach attempt this afternoon. Nothing major, a drone over the East Dunes, snapped photos before we jammed it. But we recovered this." He handed over a slim USB drive, etched with a single initial, V. Ethan's jaw tightened as he plugged it into his tablet, Sophia hovering close with Alex in his arms. The screen flickered to life, grainy footage from the drone, capturing their private beach walk that morning. Sophia laughing as Ethan splashed seawater at her feet. Alex bundled in a carrier against her chest. Innocent, joyful. But overlaid in red text, property of Langford Archives, the sins of our fathers echo in our sons. Sophia's blood ran cold, the fragile happiness cracking like thin ice. Victor wasn't faded. He was watching, waiting, his vendetta evolving from personal slight to generational war. As Alex stirred, releasing a soft gurgle, she kissed his forehead, resolve hardening. "Hell not touch you," she whispered, "not while we breathe." Ethan pocketed the drive, his free arm encircling them both. "Call Lydia. Time to end the echoes, for good." Outside, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the dunes, a harbinger of storms yet to break. Their paradise held, but the fragile threads binding it trembled, one drone away from unraveling. The drive into Manhattan cut through the autumn chill like a blade, the Escalade's tinted windows shielding Sophia and Ethan from the world's prying eyes, as Alex slumbered in his car seat, oblivious to the storm brewing. It had been 2 days since the drone incident, and the USB drive was now locked in a vault at Nash Global's fortified offices. Cybersecurity experts dissected its footage, which confirmed the watermark: Langford Archives. Victor wasn't just spying. He was archiving their lives, collecting ammunition for a war waged in shadows. Lydia had insisted on this meeting at the family's ancestral penthouse overlooking Central Park, a fortress of marble and secrets where the Reynolds dynasty had plotted mergers and massed heartbreaks for generations. Ethan gripped the wheel, his knuckles white against the leather, while Sophia stared at the passing skyscrapers, her mind a tangle of maternal ferocity and unresolved grief. Alex's soft breaths from the back seat grounded her, a tiny anchor in the tempest. She murmured, glancing at the rearview mirror, "We shouldn't have brought him. What if this draws Victor closer?" Ethan reached across the console, his hand finding hers in a squeeze that spoke volumes. "Marcus has 2 tails on us, and the buildings have more security than Fort Knox. Lydia swore this was safe, and we need answers. For Alex's sake, for ours." The penthouse elevator whispered open to a polished oak and crystal chandelier foyer, the air scented with old money and fresh lilies. Lydia Reynolds awaited in the grand salon, a vision of poised elegance in a tailored Chanel suit, her silver-streaked hair pulled into a severe chignon. At 62, she carried the Reynolds' imperiousness like a crown, but her eyes, sharp as Elena's, held a weariness that betrayed the weight of decades guarding family skeletons. Aunt Lydia rose from a velvet chaise, her embrace for Sophia brief but fierce, lingering on the swell of her belly, where Alex now kicked in recognition. "He's grown already," Lydia said, her voice a cultured drawl softened by genuine affection. "And strong, like his grandmother. Come, sit. Tea is ready, and the truth, well, it's overdue." They settled around a low mahogany table laden with porcelain cups and a silver service that gleamed like captured moonlight. Alex, transferred to a portable bassinet, cooed contentedly, his tiny fists waving as if conducting the room's tension. Ethan accepted a cup but didn't drink, his posture alert. The billionaire air coiled like a spring beneath his casual sweater. Ethan said flatly from the beginning, his brown eyes locked onto Lydia's. "The photo, the merger. What did Victor have on Elena that he's using now against us?" Lydia sighed, setting her cup down deliberately, the clink echoing like a gavel. Elena was 23 when she met Victor, fresh from Wharton with stars in her eyes and a fortune to build. Williams Holdings was just a seed then, your grandfather's pipe dream of ethical real estate, but lacking the capital to bloom. Victor Langford, even then a prodigy at 25, had the connections. Silicon Valley venture capitalists hungry for bricks-and-mortar diversification. They met at a Hamptons fundraiser, sparks flew, and flirtation became a partnership. He funneled $10 million through Cayman shells, anonymous enough to skirt regulations. In return, Elena promised him 20% equity once the company stabilized. Sophia leaned forward, her hand instinctively protective over Alex. And the photo? That wasn't just a gala snapshot. Lydia's gaze softened, flickering to the infant. Number. It was a promise ring, hidden in that skyline shot. Victor slipped it on her finger that night, whispering of marriage after the IPO. But Elena, she was ambitious, darling. Fiercely so. When your father, Marcus Reynolds, entered the picture, a solid, principled engineer with a vision to match hers, she saw stability. Victor was fire, intoxicating but volatile. Marcus was the heart. She ended it with Victor the week before the funding round closed, routing his money through legitimate channels but diluting his stake to 5% in the fine print. He found out on signing day and stormed the boardroom like a typhoon. Threats, lawsuits, sabotage. That's when the real war began. Ethan rubbed his jaw, piecing it together. So Victor's grudge isn't just personal, it's a corporate blood feud. He tanked deals and spread rumors that nearly sank Williams in the early 2000s, and now with Alex. Lydia nodded gravely, her fingers tracing the rim of her saucer. Blood makes it personal again. Victor always believed Elena owed him a son, an heir to the empire he helped birth. When she died in that car crash 16 years ago, he spiraled, drowning in what-ifs. But you, Sophia, you're her mirror, carrying her grandchild, potentially his grandnephew, through that tangled lineage. He'll claim moral rights and emotional leverage, and with Langford Tech absorbed, he's got time on his hands, grudges to settle. Sophia's stomach twisted, a chill racing down her spine despite the room's warmth. Grandnephew, the timelines, Elena and Victor parted ways before Dad, before me. No direct blood, but the optics, hell spin it into a dynasty dispute, paint us as thieves of his legacy. Precisely, Lydia murmured, and he's not alone. Whispers from my sources, Victor's allied with disgruntled Nash board members who resented Ethan's hiatus. They see Alex as a vulnerability, a way to force you back into the fold, Ethan, or fracture the Williams-Nash alliance before it solidifies. Ethan shot to his feet, pacing to the floor-to-ceiling windows where Central Park sprawled like a green oasis amid steel. My father warned me about this. David Harlow's been fielding calls and veiled threats about succession if I don't prioritize the empire over this. He gestured to the bassinet, his voice cracking on the word. But they don't get it. Alex isn't a bargaining chip. He's our son. The room's tension thickened, broken only by Alex's sudden fussing. A wet diaper, judging by the squirm. Sophia rose swiftly, scooping him up with practiced ease, her rocking motion instinctive as she changed him on a nearby credenza padded with linens. Lydia watched with a fond smile, but her eyes held shadows of her own losses. No children, a life devoted to the family's vault. You remind me so much of her, Lydia said softly. Elena in those early days, balancing boardrooms and dreams. She would have adored this little warrior. Sophia met her aunt's gaze over Alex's downy head, the infant's eyes, those warm browns from Ethan, fluttering open in curiosity. Did she ever regret it? Leaving Victor? Lydia's expression clouded. Regret was Elena's shadow. She built an empire and raised you into a titan. But late nights, after the glasses of Pinot, she stares at that old photo, the one you received, and whispers about roads not taken. Victor wasn't all villain. He loved her in his ruthless way, but love without trust. It's poison. Sound familiar? The words landed like echoes of Sophia's past. The rain-soaked night Victor had accused her of betrayal, casting her out like yesterday's news. Ethan crossed to her side, his arm slipping around her waist. A silent vow. We learned from that poison. Built something real. Lydia inclined her head, but her voice dropped to a conspiratorial hush. Real, yes, but fragile. Victor isn't content with whispers. My contact in his old circle, a former exec, now bitter, says he's compiling a dossier. Not just the photo, but ledgers, proof of those Cayman funds, emails Elena thought deleted. He'll leak it strategically, timed to Alex's first public photo op, or your next joint earnings call. Chaos in the markets, scandals in the tabloids. And if that fails, Ethan tensed. Hell escalates. Kidnapping threats, custody plays. Worse, Lydia replied, her tone steel. He's reaching out to old flames and anyone with a grudge against the Reynolds name, including me. A pause, heavy as lead. He called last night from a burner, offered me a cut of Williams if I'd testify to Elena's duplicity, said he'd forgive the past if I helped him claim his due through the boy. Sophia's blood ran cold. Alex's warmth, the only tether as rage simmered beneath her skin. You? After everything you've shielded? Lydia waved a hand, dismissive yet pained. Water under bridges long burned. I strung him along, of course, fed him half-truths to buy time. But he's unraveling, Ethan. The man lost his throne. Now hell burns the kingdom to feel the heat. A buzzer sounded from the foyer. Security clearance. Lydia glanced at her watch. That'll be your father, Ethan. David insisted on joining. He's concerned. The doors swung open to admit David Harlow, a towering figure at 68, with impeccable silver hair and a suit cut sharper than his reputation. CEO of Nash Global, architect of fortunes, he moved with the precision of a man who'd toppled competitors without breaking stride. But his eyes, so like Ethan's, softened at the sight of his grandson, pausing to coo briefly at Alex before turning to business. Lydia, he greeted with a nod, then fixed Ethan with a piercing stare. "You look like hell, son. These Langford pests got you chasing ghosts." Ethan bristled, but Sophia interjected smoothly, handing Alex to Lydia for a moment as she stood. "Mr. Harlow, thank you for coming. Victor's not a pest. He's a predator with history on our side. We need a united front, Nash and Williams." David appraised her, a flicker of respect breaking his granite facade. "Sharp as your mother, girl." Ellen Elena's runs true. He sank into an armchair, accepting tea with a grunt. "I've ears in every alley. Langford's holed up in a Jersey warehouse, what remains of his empire, gadgets, grudges, ghosts. But he's allies. That exec Lydia mentioned, he's now flipped for a board seat. Spilling everything, Victor's is a two-prong attack. Public smear via leaked docs, private play for Alex, claiming emotional kinship through Elena, pushing for visitation rights as family. Sophia tightened on the chair arm. "Visitation? Over my corpse." David chuckled, a rare rumble. "That's spirit. But legally, with that photo, a sympathetic judge might grant supervised meets. We bury it first. I propose accelerating the merger talks and folding Will Williams' estate into Nash Tech. Bulletproof the trusts around Alex. Make him untouchable." Ethan exchanged a glance with Sophia, the weight of legacies pressing down. "It's a start," he conceded, "but we confront Victor directly, no more shadows." As if summoned, David Zesny buzzed, a secure line. He answered curtly, his face darkening. "What? When?" He hung up, the room electric with anticipation. "That was your sister, Ethan, Clara. She's the Hamptons estate, watching Alex's cam feed. I caught an intruder, SLI. Ped past the perimeter, left, and this on the nursery windowsill." He slid a photo across the table, a single, weathered locket, engraved with EV, Elena Victor, dangling from a chain. Inside, a tiny curl of dark hair, clipped from Elena's youth, and a note scrawled in crimson. The echoes quicken. Blood calls to blood. Your son hears it too. Alex let out a sharp cry from the bassinet, as if in answer, his face crumpling in sudden distress. Sophia scooped him up, heart-pounding, while Ethan stared at the locket, fury igniting in his eyes. Ghosts indeed, but this one's and blood. Victor just declared open war. Outside, thunder rumbled over the park, the first drops of rain pattering against the glass. A storm rising to match the one within. The past wasn't tied. It clawed free, hungry for the future they had to protect. And as Alex quieted against Sophia's SST, his tiny hand clutching her finger, she knew. The ghosts demanded reckoning, and they'd them as one family, unbroken. Rain lashed the Hamptons estate like a vengeful specter, turning the dunes into blurred silhouettes beyond the storm-lashed windows. Sophia paced the nursery, Alex cradled against her shoulder, his tiny form a warm counterpoint to the chill seeping through the glass. The locket from the intruder, Elena and Victor's etched in cruel intimacy, lay on the changing table like a venomous talisman, its curl of hair glinting under the soft glow of a nightlight. Ethan stood sentinel at the door, phone in hand, his voice a low growl as he barked orders to Marcus and the security team sweeping the perimeter. Clara, Ethan's sister, hovered nearby, her usual vivacious energy subdued into sharp focus, having arrived from the city just hours after the breach alert. Ethan said, "They're tightening the net," pocketing his phone as he crossed to Sophia, his hand brushing Alex's back in a protective and possessive gesture. Drones grounded, motion sensors tripled, but that locket, it's a message. He's close, too close. Clara, a lithe 30-year-old with Ethan's brown eyes but a hacker's edge honed from years in Nash Global's cyber division, leaned against the crib, arms crossed. Close and clever. I traced the intruder's boot prints, custom Italian leather, like those goons in Florence. Victor's not slumming it. He's directing from the shadows, testing our defenses like a chess master probing for weaknesses. Sophia rocked Alex gently, his breaths evening into sleep despite the thunder rumbling outside. Testing for Alex, she corrected, her voice a whisper laced with steel. That hair, Mom's. It's not just a threat, it's personal. He's saying our sons are tied to his ghosts, that blood gives him claim. We can't wait for the next move. Ethan nodded, his jaw set as he scooped the locket into an evidence bag, sealing it deliberately. Then we don't. Lydia mentioned a contact, her old exec friend from Langford Tech. He's flipped, and he owes her a favor. These days, Victor holes up in a Jersey warehouse, licking wounds and plotting. We're going there tonight. End the veil, drag the threats into the light. Clara's eyes widened, a spark of admiration flashing. Straight to the lion's den? Bold. I'll pull feeds, satellite, traffic cams, give you a window before his goons regroup. Sophia hesitated, glancing at Alex's peaceful face, the curve of his lashes against chubby cheeks. But the baby, the rain. Ethan cupped her face, his touch grounding her whirlwind thoughts. Clara stays here with him, following lockdown protocols. Marcus shadows us. You and me, Sophia, we faced Victor at the gala, and we owned the narrative. This is just round 2. No more reacting. We dictate. The decision settled like resolve in her bones, the rain outside mirroring the storm within, but fueling her fire. By midnight, the Escalade sliced through sheets of water on the Garden State Parkway, wipers slashing rhythmically as Marcus navigated the slick blacktop. Sophia sat shotgun, tablet in lap, pulling up schematics of the warehouse district, abandoned industrial husks where Langford Tech had once prototyped gadgets before its fall. In the back, Ethan reviewed dossiers, his face illuminated by the screen's glow, every line etched with the ferocity of a father guarding his own. He's unraveling, Ethan murmured, scrolling through financials. Post-merger, he's got maybe $5 million left, peanuts for us, but enough to hire muscle, buy silence. That exec Lydia flipped. He says Victor is obsessed with redemption arcs. He wants to play the wronged patriarch and spin Alex as the heir he never had through Elena. Sophia turned, rain-streaked highway lights flickering across her features. Redemption? After the rain he left me in? He's delusional. But if he's reaching for Alex, we shut that door forever. The warehouse loomed on the outskirts of Newark, a rusting behemoth of corrugated steel and shattered windows, its loading docks swallowed by weeds. Marcus killed the lights a block out, the engine idling to a whisper as they scanned the perimeter. No guards visible, but shadows shifted unnaturally near the side entrance, a flicker of cigarette ember, the low murmur of voices. Ethan and Sophia slipped out, cloaks of dark rain gear blending with the night, Marcus covering from the SUV with a suppressed rifle at the ready. They moved like ghosts through the downpour, boots splashing in puddles that reflected neon from distant billboards. The side door hung ajar, a sliver of yellow light spilling out like an invitation, or a trap. Ethan nudged it open with his shoulder, pistol drawn low, Sophia close behind with a compact taser gripped tight. Inside, the air hung heavy with stale oil and desperation, crates stacked like forgotten tombs under flickering fluorescence. Footsteps echoed from deeper in, deliberate, unhurried. Victor emerged from the gloom, not the broken shell of the gala, but a specter refined by spite. Leaner, sharper suited despite the decay, his once blonde hair now streaked with premature gray. 2 burly figures flanked him, but he waved them off with a languid hand, eyes locking on Sophia like a predator sighting prey. "Well," he drawled, voice smooth as aged whiskey laced with acid. "The prodigal power couple is slumming it in my lair. Come to gloat or beg?" Sophia stepped forward, rain dripping from her hood, chin lifted in defiance. "No games, Victor. The locket, the drone, the threats. Enough. What do you want with my son?" Victor's smile twisted, a flash of teeth in the dim light as he circled a cluttered workbench strewn with blueprints and burner phones. "Your son? Ah, but blood whispers truths empires ignore. Elena promised me a legacy, Equity, yes, but more. A family. When she chose Marcus, she stole it. Now, through you, fate circles back. Alex carries her fire, my shadow. He's the bridge, Sophia, the heir to what was mine. Ethan advanced, his stance coiled, voice a low thunder. He's our son, yours in delusion only. You touch him, you die trying. Victor laughed, a hollow bark that echoed off the rafters, but his eyes, those ice-blue shards, flicked with something raw, almost pleading. Delusion, look at this. He snatched a manila folder from the bench, flinging it open to reveal sheaves of yellowed documents. Contracts smudged with time, Elena's looping signature beside his, clauses for phantom shares. And this. He tapped a glossy printout, a recent ultrasound pilfered from their clinic records. Alex's tiny form arrowed with annotations. Potential carrier traits, Langford lineage markers. Sophia's breath hitched, fury igniting as she snatched the image, crumpling it in her fist. You hacked our doctors? For what? Fantasies of paternity? The timelines don't lie. You and Mom parted years before me, before Alex. Victor's facade cracked then, and there was a tremor in his hand as he lit a cigarette, smoke curling like specters. Timelines bend for the bold. Elena miscarried once, early, our child, lost before it breathed. She never told you? Buried it with the rest. But DNA lingers, echoes in veins. Modern tests, they find ghosts. Alex could carry fragments, mitochondrial whispers, epigenetic scars, enough to claim kinship in court, sway boards, or leak to the press, the billionaire bastard, tied to the rival who built your throne. The words landed like blows, Sophia reeling as fragments of memory surfaced. Her mother's distant gaze on anniversaries, a locked drawer of letters she'd found as a teen. Ethan caught her arm, steadying her, his glare lethal. Blackmail born of loss doesn't make you a father. It makes you pathetic. Walk away, Victor, or we bury you deeper. But Victor leaned in, smoke wreathing his face like a veil lifting on madness. Pathetic? I built Langford from scraps while your families feasted. Elena took my seed money and heart and birthed an empire on my bones. Now, her blood in your boy, it's justice. Sign over 10% Williams equity, silent, untraceable. Visitation rights, summers in the Hamptons. Or I go public. Elena's secret affair, the lost heir, the DNA that dooms your perfect family. Sophia's taser hummed to life in her grip, the blue arc crackling like her resolve. You think threats buy loyalty? You're not family, you're fallout. Mom chose better, chose us. Alex is ours. Touch that equity, and I'll dismantle what's left of you, piece by fraudulent piece. Victor's eyes narrowed, calculating, but before he could retort, a shadow detached from the rafters, a third man, silent till now, lunging with a syringe glinting in the light, sedatives for extraction. Ethan moved like lightning, tackling him into crates that splintered on impact, fists flying in a blur of rain-slicked fury. Sophia spun toward Victor, taser extended, but he backed away, hands raised in mock surrender, his guards surging forward. Enough theater, he snarled, signaling retreat as chaos erupted. Gunfire from Marcus outside shattering the tension, bullets pinging off steel. You've seen the cards, Sophia. Play them wrong, and Alex pays the ante. He vanished into the gloom, his men dragging the subdued attacker as Ethan rose, bruised but unbroken, wiping blood from a split lip. Sophia rushed to him, heart hammering, the folder clutched like evidence of war declared. He's unhinged, Ethan gasped, pulling her close amid the acrid smoke of gunfire. That miscarriage story, if true, it's twisted his grief into this. Sophia nodded, adrenaline crashing into dread as sirens wailed in the distance. Twisted enough to steal our son. We need proof, real DNA, airtight. And Lydia's contact? Hell. Testify to the Cayman lies, bury Victor's claims. They burst into the rain, Marcus covering their sprint to the Escalade, tires spinning mud as they fled the warehouse inferno, figurative flames licking at their heels. Back home, as dawn clawed the horizon, Sophia held Alex tight. the infant's innocent gurgles starkly contrasting to the veiled threats now bared. Victor wasn't fading, he was feral, his demands a noose tightening around their fragile world. But in Ethan's arms, as thunder faded to drizzle, Sophia felt the spark of counterstrike. Threats unveiled meant vulnerabilities exposed. Victor had shown his hand. Now they'd play theirs, to shatter his illusions forever. The phone buzzed then, an unknown number flashing. Lydia's voice, urgent and cracked. "He's coming for you tonight. The real play, your son's first outing. Get out now." The line went dead, leaving silence thick as the storm's aftermath. Alex stirred, eyes opening to the world's dawn, unaware of the shadows converging. But his parents knew, the veil was torn, and the threats beneath demanded blood or victory. The Hamptons estate loomed like a glass sentinel against the pre-dawn gloom, its walls reflecting the first hesitant streaks of light as Sophia and Ethan burst through the side door, rain-slicked and breathless. Marcus trailed them, his rifle slung low, barking into his radio for perimeter lockdown. The warehouse showdown still pulsed in their veins. Victor's manic eyes, the crumpled ultrasound, the syringe-wielding thug now zip-tied in the Escalade's trunk. But Lydia's frantic call had ignited fresh panic. "He's coming for you tonight. The real play, your son's first outing." Alex's pediatric checkup, scheduled for 9 a.m. at a discreet Southampton clinic, their first venture into the world as a family of 3. Victor wasn't bluffing, he was choreographing. Ethan bolted for the nursery, Sophia hot on his heels, hearts slamming in unison. Clara met them at the threshold, her laptop on one hip and her face pale under the harsh overhead light. "He's secure," she said, nodding to the bassinet where Alex slumbered, thumb tucked in his mouth like a talisman. But the feeds, anomalies, 2 vans circling the east gate an hour ago, plates cloned from delivery services. "I jammed their signals, but they'll adapt." Sophia scooped Alex into her arms, his warmth a fierce anchor as she pressed kisses to his downy head. First outing, he's turning it into a spectacle. Paparazzi, snatch attempt, the works. "We can't go. Reschedule. Go virtual." Ethan shook his head, raking wet hair from his eyes, droplets scattering like accusations. Too late. Victor knows the appointment. Hell swarm the clinic anyway. Draw us out, make it look like we're hiding. We flip it, go early, decoy route. Clara, spoof the feeds, make it look like we're still en route from the city. Clara nodded, fingers flying across keys, her hacker's grin resurfacing amid the fear. On it. "I'll loop old traffic cam footage and plant a ghost signal on a dummy Escalade heading west. Buy you 2 hours. But Sophia caught Ethan's gaze, reading the undercurrent, the jealousy flickering there, unspoken since the warehouse. "You're sure, after what he pulled, that miscarriage claim? It's eating at you." He exhaled sharply, stepping close to cup her cheek, thumb tracing her jaw. "Eating, it's fuel." He twists grief into weapons, but it blinds him, makes him sloppy. "We use that. You go to the clinic, public face, draw eyes. I'll shadow Victor and end his game before it starts." Sophia searched his eyes, the brown depths stormy with possession, the fear of losing her again to the man who had once cast her aside. No splitting up, not with Alex in play. Ethan leaned in, forehead to hers, voice a ragged whisper. "Then we bait him together. The coffee shop across from the clinic is neutral ground, crowded enough for witnesses and quiet enough for truth. Lydia says he's desperate for a sit-down, to play the elder statesman. We give him that. Record it all. Turn his threats into testimony." The plan crystallized in the charged air, a desperate gambit forged in the nursery's soft glow. By 7, they'd mobilized, Marcus driving the decoy, Clara orchestrating digital smoke. Sophia nursed Alex in the main suite, her free hand sketching contingencies on a tablet. Lawyers on speed dial, Nash security in unmarked sedans circling the block. Ethan showered off the warehouse grime, emerging in crisp chinos and a Henley that hugged his frame, the domestic armor of a man ready for war. They slipped out at 8, the real Escalade purring through back roads. Alex bundled in the rear-facing seat with a portable monitor piping lullabies. The clinic waited in Southampton's leafy heart, a low-slung building of white brick and ivy, its parking lot already dotted with early arrivals. Across the street, the daily grind buzzed with morning rush. Yogis in Lululemon clutching lattes, locals scrolling headlines on tablets. Victor would slink in through the alley door, Lydia's source confirmed, ego demanding the shadows. Sophia claimed a corner booth, Alex in a carrier at her feet, ordering a decaf Americano she wouldn't touch. Her pulse thrummed, every jingle of the bell spiking adrenaline. Ethan sat across, back to the wall, feigning casual perusal of the menu while his foot nudged hers under the table. A silent tether. At 8:40, the alley door creaked, and there he was, Victor Langford, gaunt in a trench coat that hung loose on his frame, eyes scanning like a hawk scenting blood. He spotted her instantly, a predator's smile curling his lips as he slid into the booth uninvited, the scent of expensive cologne and desperation wafting with him. "Sophia," he purred, voice pitched low for the booth's intimacy, radiant as ever. And the boy, Alex, charming name, echoes of Elena's taste. She met his gaze level, fingers drumming the table in a rhythm that belied her calm. "Cut the nostalgia, Victor. The drone, the locket, the goons, childish. What do you really want? Equity? A photo op with my son, or to watch us bleed?" Victor's eyes flicked to the carrier, a hunger there that twisted her gut. "Bleed? No, darling. Balance. Elena took from me love, legacy, a child lost in shadow. You carry her echo, and now him. Blood diluted, but potent. A DNA whisper could rewrite trusts and sway shareholders. 10% Williams, visitation, grandfatherly afternoons in the park. Fair trade for the empire I ceded." Sophia leaned in, voice a blade wrapped in silk. "Seated with strings attached, you mean. Cayman ghosts and sabotage. Mom buried it all for a reason. And that miscarriage tale? Tragic, if true. But it doesn't grant you keys to my nursery. Alex is Ethan's. Ours. You're a footnote, Victor, a storm we weathered." His facade fractured then, fingers drumming the table in mimicry, eyes darting to the door where Ethan lurked in line, ostensibly ordering a refill, but ears attuned. Footnote: I loved her, Sophia. Built her dreams while she dreamed of another. When she miscarried, our boy, gone at 12 weeks, I shattered. She ran to Marcus, birthed you, the perfect heir. But fate loops, your son, my grandnephew in spirit. Let me know him, be the family she denied. Sophia's heart clenched, a flicker of pity warring with revulsion. The man before her not a monster, but mourner, grief curdled into venom. But before she could probe, the bell jingled again, Ethan, tray in hand, sliding into the booth with predatory grace, his presence a wall between Victor and the exit. "Refills," he said mildly, setting down cups with deliberate clink. "And questions, like, how deep does your delusion run? Hacking clinics? Stalking infants? You're not a grandfather, you're a ghoul." Victor's composure slipped, a flush creeping up his neck as he straightened, voice dropping to a hiss. "Harlow, the White Knight played house in poverty until convenience called you back to thrones. You think you own her? She was mine first. Elena, Sophia, the bloodline. That boy down there? He's the key. Sign the papers or I go nuclear. Press conference at noon, Elena's letters, the loss, the lies. Williams stock craters, Nash alliances fracture. Your perfect family? Tabloid fodder." Ethan leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice a velvet threat. "Nuclear? Cute. We've got your warehouse on tape, threats, files, the works. Lydia's executive sings like a canary, your Cayman trails and the sabotage logs. One call to the DA, and you're not a grandfather, but an inmate. Walk away, Victor, for your own ghost." The air thickened and charged as the moments before thunder, Victor's eyes darting between them, Sophia's unyielding stare, Ethan's coiled menace. Jealousy ignited then, raw and unfiltered. Victor's gaze raked Sophia, lingering on the curve of her neck, the hand cradling Alex. "You defend her like a prize," he sneered at Ethan. "But she's fire, untamed. I tasted that first. Elena burned bright, Sophia does the same. You chain her with nurseries and mergers. I would have set her free." Ethan's control snapped, fist slamming the table hard enough to rattle cups, coffee sloshing like spilled blood. "Free? You threw her to wolves once, pregnant, broken. I carried her through storms you unleashed. She's no prize, she's queen. And you, scavenger, picking at bones you never claimed. Sophia surged to her feet, carrier in arms, voice a whip crack that silenced the booth's bubble. Enough. Victor, your grief is valid, tragic even. But it ends here. No shares, no visits. Seek therapy, not thrones. Ethan, she turned to him, eyes flashing with the same fire Victor envied. He's baiting you. Please don't give him the satisfaction. But Victor rose too, coat swirling as he backed toward the door, a triumphant glint in his eye. Bait? No, truth. You'll crack, Harlow, jealousy festers. And Sophia, hell, I'll always wonder if I was right. He vanished into the crowd, bell jangling like laughter. Outside, sirens wailed, paparazzi swarm, tipped off, cameras flashing as Victor melted into the throng. Ethan exploded from the booth, shoving through patrons, fury propelling him into the lot where tires screeched, a black SUV peeling away with Victor's profile in the passenger seat. Sophia followed, Alex wailing now, the eruption spilling into chaos, flashes blinding, questions assaulting. Billionaire brawl? Custody war? They dove into the waiting car, Marcus gunning the engine as hounds bayed. Back home, Ethan punched the dashboard, knuckles splitting. Hell will always wonder, that smug bastard, twisting my love into doubt. Sophia shifted Alex to her lap, soothing his cries as she cupped Ethan's face, forcing his gaze to hers. Doubt? Ethan, you're my anchor. Victor? He's echo, fading, false. But that jealousy, it's poison if we let it. He deflated, forehead dropping to hers, breath ragged. I know, but seeing him look at you like he owns pieces of you, it rips me. Then we cauterize it, she whispered, fierce. Together. Call the lawyers and file the restraining order. And Lydia. Full dossier dump, no more veils. As the estate gates clanged shut behind them, phones erupted. Alerts from Clara. Breach at the clinic decoy. Victor spotted a rallying press. The confrontation had ignited the powder keg. Jealousy, and a live wire sparking between them. Ethan pulled Sophia close over the console, Alex between, a triad against the fray. But in the rear view, shadows lengthened, Victor's parting shot lingering, a crack in their armor. The secret face-off had bared souls, but at what cost? As Alex quieted, thumb in mouth, Sophia felt the tremor. Their bond, tested by ghosts, now quaked by the specter of doubt sown deep. Victor hadn't just threatened their son. He'd poisoned the well of trust, and the absolute deluge loomed. The sterile glow of the conference room at Nash Global's Midtown Tower cut through the late afternoon haze, casting long shadows across the mahogany table where Sophia and Ethan sat flanked by their war counsel. Papers rustled like dry leaves, restraining orders drafted in triplicate, dossiers thick with redacted emails from Elena's era, and forensic reports on the locket confirming its provenance. A 1995 Tiffany piece, engraved by Victor's hand. Alex napped in a portable bassinet at Sophia's feet, his soft snores a defiant rhythm against the tension coiling in the air. Clara paced behind the projector screen, her fingers dancing over a laptop that hummed with encrypted feeds. At the same time, David Harlow loomed at the head, his presence a gravitational force pulling strategies into orbit. He's circling, David rumbled, tapping a tablet displaying satellite loops of the Jersey warehouse, empty now, stripped bare save for scorch marks from a hasty arson attempt post-confrontation. Langford's goons torched the evidence dump after your little coffee clatch. But my mole in his inner circle, ex-CFO, disgruntled over severance, sent this before the blaze. He slid an encrypted drive across the table, its surface cool under Ethan's palm. Sophia leaned forward, her dark curls framing a face set in determination, though shadows lingered under her eyes from sleepless nights haunted by Victor's parting sneer. The widening secrets, Elena's miscarriage, the Cayman infusions, had cracked open not just their past but their present. Tendrils snaking into boardrooms and bedrooms alike. Open it, she urged, voice steady as she glanced at Alex, his tiny chest rising and falling like a metronome of innocence. Ethan plugged the drive, the screen flickering with a cascade of files. Ledgers yellowed with age, scanned in high-res, showing Victor Langford's signature woven into Williams Holdings' earliest fabric. But deeper, a subfolder labeled Phoenix Protocol. Offshore entities, shell companies nested like Russian dolls, funneling not just seed money but tech patents swiped from nascent Silicon Valley startups. Clara zoomed in, her voice sharp as she narrated. Look here, 1996, post-breakup. Victor reroutes funds through a dummy corp, Langford Innovations, to undercut Williams' first major deal, the Hudson Yards bid. Elena counters by partnering with your father, Marcus, but Victor embeds a mole, your grandfather's own engineer, paid to sabotage blueprints. David's fist clenched, knuckles whitening. Bastard didn't just lose a lover, he declared economic jihad. And this, he gestured to a highlighted email chain, timestamped 1997. Victor to Elena, subject betrayal. You built on my bones, darling. The child we lost? My heir, denied. I'll reclaim what's mine, through courts or collapse. Sophia's breath hitched, hand fluttering to her throat as the words blurred through unshed tears. The miscarriage, he weaponized it even then. Mom never said. God, the weight she carried. Ethan covered her hand with his, thumb stroking circles of reassurance. But his jaw ticked with the jealousy Victor had sown at the cafe. That smug glance, the implication of shared history deeper than blood. Weight we share now, he said softly. But this protocol? It's bigger than a grudge. Victor wasn't a silent partner, he was a saboteur-in-chief. Williams survived because Elena was steel. Now he's widening the net, tying Alex to this phoenix, claiming the boys are Empire's redemption arc. Clara nodded, pulling up a relational map. Nodes linking Langford Tech to Williams' subsidiaries, arrows of influence snaking back decades. And get this, Victor's not idle post-gala after his company's absorption. He's whispering to SEC insiders, dangling these ledgers as proof of historical fraud. If it sticks, Williams faces audits and refits, billions in penalties. Nash gets dragged in via our merger talks. Alex? He's the human hook, grandnephew to the wronged founder, leverage for custody spins in the press. David leaned back, steepling fingers that had crushed competitors like grapes. Then we hire hunters. My I firm Blackstone Investigations is a top-tier ex-FBI firm. They'll tail Victor, map his allies, and flip more moles. But Ethan, son, this hits home. Your hiatus, playing pauper? The board murmurs its weakness. With Langford stirring, they'll push for you to harden, full CEO, no distractions. Ethan's eyes flashed, the prodigal heir's fire kindling. Distractions? Alex is a priority. Sophia is steel. We don't harden, we fortify. Blackstone it is. And Sophia, your call on Williams' side. Full disclosure to the board? She nodded, resolve hardening as she scooped Alex into her arms. His waking coos a bomb. Full. No more widening secrets. But first, we confront the source. Lydia knows more about Phoenix's details, perhaps even the mole's identity. We bring her in tonight. The drive to Lydia's sequestered brownstone in Greenwich Village wove through rush hour snarl, the city's pulse a chaotic underscore to their silence. Ethan drummed fingers on the wheel, jealousy a low simmer. Victor's cafe taunt replaying, I tasted that first. Sophia sensed it, her hand on his thigh a gentle anchor. He's poison, Ethan. Echoes, not essence. You're my now, my forever. He glanced at her, brown eyes softening in the dashboard glow. I know, but he widens the cracks, makes me question if I can protect you both from ghosts I didn't bury. You already have, she whispered, as Alex babbled from the back, clutching a rattle like a scepter. From rain to this, they were unbreakable. Lydia's door swung open to a fortress of discretion. Armored locks, biometric scans, a foyer lined with law tomes and vintage wines. She greeted them in silk pajamas, hair loose in silver waves, starkly contrasting her boardroom armor. She said the widening secrets suit you poorly, wryly, ushering them to a study aglow with leather-bound volumes and a crackling fire. Tea or truth serum? Truth, Ethan said, settling Alex on a playmat amid scattered blocks, the infant's curiosity immediate as he toppled towers with gleeful smacks. Phoenix Protocol. What was it? Really? Beyond the sabotage. Lydia poured amber Earl Grey, her hands steady but eyes distant, journeying back decades. Victor coined it, rising from Elena's ashes, he said. After the miscarriage, he spiraled. Therapy skipped for vendettas. The protocol was his blueprint. Embed in Williams' supply chain, siphon innovations, wait for collapse. But Elena anticipated partnering with Marcus, your father, and Sophia. They built firewalls, dummy patents, loyalty oaths. Victor got close once in the 2001 dot-com bust. Nearly triggered a cascade, stock plunge, board revolt. Sophia rocked forward, tea forgotten. And the mole? The engineer? Lydia's face was shadowed, and a firelight was carving hollows in her cheeks. Harlan Voss, grandfather's right hand, Victor's Wharton classmate, paid handsomely to leak specs. Elena caught him mid-transaction in 2002. No jail, too messy, but exile. He's dust now, pension stripped, living in obscurity. But Victor, he never stopped. Widened his web, allies in regulators, journalists on payroll. Now with Alex, it's personal phoenix. Claim the boy as symbolic heir. Force a Williams-Langford reconciliation. Equity, legacy, absolution. Ethan's phone buzzed. Clara, urgent text. Blackstone hit pay dirt. Voss is alive, and Victor meets him tonight at the old shipyard in Brooklyn. Coordinates attached. Widening confirmed. Voss has fresh ledgers, and DNA hypotheticals tie Alex to the Elena-Victor phantom line. The room electrified, Lydia's cup clattering to the saucer. Voss? After all this time? Victor must be desperate, resurrecting ghosts to haunt the living. Desperate men widen cracks, Ethan growled, scooping Alex as Sophia rose, her face a mask of calculated fury. We go, tonight. Blackstone tails, but we lead and end the protocol at the source. Lydia protested, voice rising. Too risky. Voss is brittle, heart issues, paranoia. Victor'll has muscle. Sophia met her aunt's gaze, fire in her eyes, mirroring Elena's. Risky? Our son's name on those hypotheticals. Number. We widen the truth, expose them both. Record, retrieve, ruin. The Brooklyn shipyard sprawled under sodium lamps like a rusted leviathan, fog rolling off the East River to cloak cranes and derelict hulls. Blackstone teams shadowed from vans, infrared scopes trained, but Ethan and Sophia moved solo, dark coats blending with night, earpieces linking to Clara's overwatch. Alex is safe with Lydia, monitored via a nanny cam, and his bedtime story is a world away from this den of decayed dreams. They slipped through chain-link gaps, footsteps muffled on oil-slick concrete, voices echoing from a gutted warehouse. Victor's timbre, oily persuasion, Voss's wheeze a counterpoint. Peering through shattered panes, they saw it. Victor pacing amid crates, Voss hunched on a stool, ledger in trembling hands. DNA mocks, Victor urged, sliding a vial across. Hypotheticals, but courts eat narrative. Alex as Elena's echo, my echo. We petition and sway the judge, family rights, Williams' blood debt. Voss coughed, eyes darting. Debt, you burned me, Langford, left me twisting when Elena sniffed the mole. Now this boy, he's collateral in your grudge fuck. Sophia tensed, Ethan's hand on her arm a break, but Victor lunged, collar grabbed, faces inches. Grudge, it's justice. She stole my son, my stake. You owe me the noose, tighten it. Chaos erupted. Voss shoved back, stumbling into crates that toppled like dominoes. Voss clutching his chest in agony. Victor whirled at the noise, eyes locking on the window, on them. Sophia, Harlow, spies in the fog. Ethan surged forward, Sophia beside, bursting through the door as Voss collapsed, gasping. Victor bolted for a side exit, but Ethan tackled him into rusted machinery, fists connecting in a frenzy of suppressed rage. You widen nothing, he roared, pinning Victor against a girder. Ledgers, vials, done. Sophia knelt by Voss, dialing 911, her voice calm amid sirens wailing distant. Breathe, Mr. Voss, help's coming. Tell me, Phoenix ends tonight. Voss wheezed, eyes glassy on her face. A lens's mirror ends with truth. Victor, he forged the miscarriage. Grief is real, but a child. Lie. To bind her guilt, Elena knew, forgave, but he widened hate. The confession hung, a bomb detonating identities. Victor's phantom son, a fabricated ghost to chain Elena forever. Sophia reeled as paramedics stormed in, Blackstone cuffing Victor mid-struggle, his screams echoing. Lies, my pain. Ethan hauled him up, face inches from Victor's, jealousy transmuted to pitying fury. Widened your own hell, Langford. Elena's free, Sophia's free. Alex, untouched. As fog swallowed the yard, Voss stabilized on a gurney. Victor was dragged to a van, and secrets spilled like ink on wet paper. Back home, Sophia held Alex close, Ethan's arms encircling them. The widening halted, not by force but fracture. But in the quiet, a new whisper. If Victor forged one ghost, what other identities lurked, waiting to widen anew? Clara's text buzzed. One more file from Voss, Elena's letter to you, unopened, the real bridge. Dawn crept, secrets, identities, expanding not in threat, but truth, binding them tighter, unbreakable. The first rays of dawn pierced the Hamptons' estate like accusatory fingers, illuminating the nursery where Sophia clutched the unopened envelope from Voss's final cash, a letter from Elena, sealed with wax that bore the faint imprint of a rose, her mother's signature flourish. Alex stirred in his crib, his cries a sharp counterpoint to the fog of exhaustion settling over her. Ethan paced the room, phone pressed to his ear, his voice a controlled storm as he fielded calls from Blackstone operatives hauling Victor to a holding facility in Queens. The shipyard takedown had cracked the Phoenix Protocol wide open, forged miscarriage claims, fabricated DNA hypotheticals, but victory felt hollow, a pyrrhic echo in the face of what brewed beyond their walls. Sophia slit the envelope with trembling fingers, the paper crisp as memory, Elena's looping script unfolding like a confession long buried. My dearest girl, it began, the ink faded but fervent. If you're reading this, Voss has surfaced, dragging shadows I thought interred. Victor wasn't a monster, but a mirror, my ambition unchecked, his love a cage I built myself. The loss we shared, real grief, but twisted by him into chains. Forgive me for the silence. I silenced it to free you. Build your empire on light, not ledgers. Love without ledgers, Sophia. Your mother, always. Tears blurred the words, a catharsis sharp as glass, but Ethan's sharp intake pulled her back. Blackstone confirms. Victor's detained on trespass and assault, Voss pressing charges from his hospital bed. But for the drives, he uploaded fragments before the bust. Came in ledgers, Elena's emails. It's hitting the wires now. Sophia's phone erupted in tandem, alerts cascading. New York Post splash, billionaire blood feud. Secret affair sinks Williams' empire? TMZ clips looped Victor's mugshot beside Elena's old gala photo. Headlines screaming, custody clash. Tech tycoons claim on Harlow heir? Twitter, now X, ignited, hashtags trending. Hashtag Reynolds Rift. Hashtag Langford Legacy. Hashtag Billionaire Bastard. Stock tickers flickered on the nursery monitor Clara had patched in. Williams Holdings dipped 3 points pre-market, Nash Global teetering at 150. The media pressure hit like a tidal wave, crashing through their fortress. Reporters swarmed the gates by 8, drones buzzing overhead despite Clara's jammers, news vans clogging the access road with satellite uplinks beaming live feeds. Sophia scooped Alex, his wails sinking with the chaos outside, and met Ethan's gaze, raw, resolute. We can't hide. They'll spin absence as guilt. Press conference. Today, our turf. Ethan nodded, the prodigal heir stealing into CEO mode, though jealousy lingered in the set of his jaw. Victor's cafe venom still festering. Our narrative. Clara, draft the statement. David, rally the boards. We own this storm. By noon, the estate's grand lawn transformed into a makeshift stage. A podium flanked by Nash and Williams flags, security in crisp black forming a human barrier against the throng of 200 cameramen jostling for angles, reporters shouting primers, influencers live streaming from phones held aloft. Sophia stood at the podium's edge, Alex in a sling against her chest, his tiny form a shield and symbol. Ethan's arm a steady anchor at her side. David loomed behind, Clara at the tech console, her fingers poised to drop truth bombs via projected graphics. The feed went live globally, CNN, Bloomberg, and even BBC cutting in. As Ethan stepped forward, his voice amplified, clear and commanding. "Thank you for coming. My family, Sophia, our son Alex, and I address you today not as titans of industry, but as parents under siege. Rumors swirl, feuds, forgeries, fractured legacies. We stand to clarify, not conceal." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, mics thrusting like spears. Ethan gestured to Clara, who cued the first slide. The shipyard footage, grainy but damning. Victor lunging at Voss. Ledgers scattering, his fabricated vials glinting under sodium lights. Victor Langford, once a rival, now a detainee, waged personal war under a corporate guise. Phoenix Protocol, not innovation, but infiltration. Forged documents, stolen patents, a miscarriage myth spun into malice. He sought to claim what was never his, our child, our future. Gasps echoed, cameras whirring as Clara layered overlays. Timelines debunking the affair's depth, Elena's emails redacted for privacy, but time-stamped to prove betrayal's one-sided blade. Sophia took the podium then, her voice steady, amplified by maternal fire, Alex's soft breaths underscoring every word. "My mother, Elena Reynolds, built Williams Holdings on vision, not vendetta. Victor contributed, funds, yes, but twisted rejection into ruin. The loss he claims, grief, genuine, but weaponized. No blood tie to Alex, only shadows he cast to eclipse our light." A reporter from Forbes shouted over the din. "Ms. Reynolds, stocks are tanking, 5 points now. Investors cry fraud. How do you respond?" Sophia met the lens unflinching, Alex's hand waving like a flag of innocence. "Fraud? Victor's. We release complete audits today. Clean, transparent. Williams and Nash stand united. Merger accelerated, trusts fortified for our son. Not in fear, but fortitude. Questions on legacy? Ask this. What empire endures built on lies?" The crowd surged, but Ethan interjected with a disarming grin. The first crack of levity in the pressure cooker. And to the tabloids peddling toddler tantrums as takeovers, he lifted Alex gently from the sling, the infant gurgling in surprise, tiny fist batting at Ethan's nose. Meet Alex Reynolds Harlow, a future negotiator and current boss. He's got more shares in our hearts than Victor ever dreamed. Laughter rippled, flashes popping as Ethan bounced him lightly, the gummy smile melting cameras. No custody crusades here, just coffee runs and crib assemblies. We're parents first, always. The moment landed like a lifeline, humanizing the headlines. Clara's feed exploding with heart emojis amid the frenzy. But pressure mounted. A Wall Street Journal scribe yelled, "Mr. Harlow, board revolt. Directors cite your family focus as risk. Step down?" Ethan's eyes hardened, but his tone stayed velvet over steel. Risk? Loving fiercely is the only sure bet. Nash thrives under vision, not voids. Watch the close, well climb from this. Sophia reclaimed the mic, her closing a clarion call. Media storm? We weather it. For Elena's light, for Alex's tomorrow. Questions? Direct to our counsel. Truth over tumult, that's our trade. They stepped back amid applause and outrage, security herding the press as Clara killed the feed. Inside, the estate thrummed with aftermath, phones ablaze, David clapping Ethan's shoulder with rare pride. "Solid play, son. Stocks rebounding. 2 points already. But the vultures circle. Expect subpoenas by dusk." Sophia retreated to the sunroom, Alex nursing quietly as adrenaline ebbed into ache. The pressure wasn't just pixels and pundits. It clawed personal. Trolls dissecting her maternity wear. Armchair therapists opining on Victor's mommy issues via Elena's ghost. Ethan joined her, sinking beside with a sigh, his hand tracing Alex's curls. That grin saved it. But God, Sophia, the boards. David's right, they'll push. She leaned into him, the weight shared. Push, let them, we were not crumbling. But the letter. Mom freed me. We free us, merger on our terms, Alex shielded. Clara's voice crackled over the intercom. Incoming, SEC prelim courtesy of Langford's leak. And the press pool outside demanding follow-up. Your call. Ethan Rose resolve reigniting. Deny entry, but we pivot, exclusive with a friendly. 60 minutes, our stage, our story. Turn the pressure into a platform. The day devolved into a siege. Calls from allies, Bloomberg offering airtime, Vanity Fair pitching profiles, juxtaposed with barbs from foes. Fox Business decrying dynasty drama. Sophia fielded Williams's board via video, her poise unyielding as directors grilled. Elena's emails. Optics? She countered with projections. Merger synergies. 10 billion uplift. Votes swung her way, the pressure forging steel alliances. By evening, as Alex fussed through teething, the media maw widened. Viral clips of Ethan's baby bounce trending. Hashtag Daddy Harlow memes softening the scandal. But deep dives unearthed Voss's hospital ravings, Phoenix details spilling to TMZ, igniting conspiracy threads. Sophia rocked Alex in the library, Ethan poring over counterfilings. When David's jet black Bentley crunched gravel outside, unannounced, urgent, he stormed in, tablet in hand, face thunderous. Leaks escalated, Victor, from holding, fed a scribe his side. Elena's seductress, miscarriage martyr. Polls shifting, public sympathy tilting his way. 30% now. Pressure's not pixels, it's pitchforks. Sophia met his storm calm, Alex dozing against her. Then we douse it. 60 minutes tomorrow. Full disclosure, Voss on camera if he consents. Humanize the hurt. Bury the hoax. David paused, appraising. Risky, but bold, like Elena. He nodded, a grudging smile cracking. You too, unbreakable. But watch the flanks. Clara flagged anomalies, shadow accounts tracing to Nash insiders, feeding Victor intel. Ethan's head snapped up, betrayal a fresh wound amid the barrage. Insiders, widening from within. The night deepened, media glare filtering through curtains like searchlights, pressure a relentless tide eroding edges. Sophia kissed Alex's brow, then Ethan's knuckles, the triad against the tempest. But as sirens wailed distant, another press van breaching, Clara's alert buzzed. Breaking. Victor bailed, anonymous bond. Sighting. Heading to the Hamptons. Pressure peaks, he's coming home. The estate braced, media moat swelling, the family's facade cracking under the weight. Sophia felt it, the squeeze, the spotlight scorching secrets into scars. But in Ethan's gaze, Alex's sigh, she found footing. Pressure forged diamonds, and they'd emerge, facets sharp, unbreakable. Yet as shadows lengthened, Victor's approach loomed. A storm front breaking, ready to drench their defiance in doubt. The federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan stood like a granite monolith against the autumn gale, its columns etched with the solemnity of justice, or the farce thereof, as Sophia and Ethan navigated the gauntlet of metal detectors and media hounds. Reporters swarmed the steps, a frothing sea of microphones and lenses, their chants a cacophony. Ms. Reynolds, is the baby Victor's? Mr. Harlow, drop the charges, family feud? Sophia clutched Alex tighter in his carrier, the infant's downy head tucked under her chin, while Ethan's arm formed a steel barrier, his glare scattering the boldest like chaff. Security carved a path, but the pressure cooker of the past week had boiled over. Victor's anonymous bail, sprung by shadowy benefactors, had ignited this preliminary hearing. A shotgun blast of motions from his legal dream team, demanding everything from discovery to dismissal. Inside the marbled halls, air thick with whispers and the scent of polished oak, they were ushered to a holding antechamber off courtroom 12. Clara waited there, laptop fortress on her knees, her face a mask of digital defiance amid the analog pomp. Voss is prepped, sedated but lucid, wheeled in from NYU Langone with a nurse shadow. His testimony could gut Langford's narrative, but the judge, she's a wild card with corporate ties to old Nash rivals. Ethan nodded, shrugging off his overcoat to reveal a tailored suit that screamed boardroom armor. However, his eyes betrayed the toll. Sleepless nights parsing depositions. Jealousy, a dull ache from Victor's taunts now amplified in legal briefs claiming emotional paternity. Wild card or not, we control the room, Sophia, your lead on rebuttal. Alex is our anchor. Sophia adjusted the carrier, Alex's sleepy coo a soft rebellion against the hush, her own attire a power play, emerald-sheathed dress hugging her postpartum curves, hair in a sleek chignon that echoed Elena's courtroom poise from archived clips. Anchor and arrow, she murmured, kissing his temple. Let's sink his ship. The bailiff intoned, "All rise," as they entered the courtroom, a theater of tension, oak benches packed with spectators, paparazzi in the back rows, Williams board allies in the front, a smattering of Victor sympathizers clutching faded Langford tech swag. Judge Elena Vasquez, mid-40s, sharp-featured with a reputation for skewering tycoons, presided from the bench, her gavel a silent threat. Victor sat at the defense table, flanked by 3 attorneys in Brioni wool, his posture erect but eyes hollowed by the ship's passage, a ghost of the mogul who had once commanded galas. Prosecutor Harlan, irony thick as the air, rose first, a wiry ADA with a voice like cracking ice. Your Honor, the state moves for complete discovery on the Phoenix Protocol, Langford's orchestrated campaign of harassment, from drone surveillance to attempted abduction at the shipyard. We proffer Voss's affidavit, eyewitness to fabrication, victim of the sabotage he enabled decades ago. This isn't a feud, it's a felony. Vasquez inclined her head, glasses perched like a perch for scrutiny, and noted, Counselor. Defense, your counter? Victor's lead, a silver fox named Hargrove with a drawl like molasses over razor wire, stood smooth as sin. Your Honor, this is a theater, not a trial. My client seeks not charges but clarity. Visitation for the child and an equity audit for Williams Holdings. The boy, Alex, carries echoes of a shared past. Elena Reynolds and Mr. Langford, partners in love and ledger. Miscarriage, merger, truths buried, now exhumed. We motion to compel DNA and disclosure. Harassment? Hyperbole from the powerful, shielding secrets. Murmurs rippled, flashes popping from the gallery as Hargrove cued a screen. The infamous 1995 photo, Elena and Victor entwined, overlaid with Voss's ledgers, redacted but damning, came in trails glowing like veins of gold. Sophia felt the room tilt, Alex stirring with a fretful whimper, her hand instinctively soothing his back as memories clawed free. Elena's letter, the forged grief that had chained her mother. Ethan leaned in, breath hot on her ear. Steady, our turn. The judge swiveled to Harlan. Rebuttal, state? Harlan gestured to the antechamber doors, and in wheeled Harlan Voss. Or rather, the husk of him, oxygen mask fogged, IV drip trailing like a tether, his once burly frame shrunken to frailty. The gallery hushed as nurses positioned him, microphone clipped to his gown. Mr. Voss, the ADA prompted gently, recount the Phoenix inception, for the record. Voss wheezed, eyes milky but piercing, locking on Victor across the aisle with a venom decades distilled. 1995. Elena, bright as dawn. Victor, shadow. Funds? Yes, but strings, control, not capital. Miscarriage? Real pain, but he twisted it. Forged letters, claimed a son, to bind her guilt. I, enabled. Mole for pay, sabotage, Hudson bids, patent theft. Phoenix? His pyre, not rebirth. Burned us all. Gasps echoed, Victor lurching forward, restrained by Hargrove's hand, his face a mask of fractured fury. Lies! Voss, you sniveling! Order! Vasquez's gavel cracked like thunder, the room stilling as Voss continued, voice ragged but relentless. Shipyard, last night. He waved vials, fakes, hypotheticals, DNA mocks to spin the boy. Alex, as kin. No blood, judge, just bile. Elena knew, forgave my exile, but him? Widened wounds. End it. The testimony landed like a grenade, shrapnel of truth shredding Victor's narrative. Hargrove objected furiously, hearsay, bias. But Vasquez overruled, her gaze narrowing on Victor. Compelling, Mr. Langford. Your move? Hargrove pivoted, slick as oil, cueing expert testimony. A geneticist via video link, pontificating on mitochondrial echoes, epigenetic scars, pseudoscience wrapped in a lab coat, suggesting Alex could carry Langford traits through Elena's line. The boy is a bridge, the expert droned. Blurred timelines, no barrier to legacy claims. Sophia rose then, her voice slicing the drone like a scalpel. Alex balanced on her hip now, his wide eyes taking in the spectacle with infant curiosity. Your Honor, if I may, the defense peddles phantoms. I represent Williams Holdings, and this child, our child, represents the future, not feud. Motion to dismiss these motions. No standing for visitation, no basis for audit. Phoenix? Prosecution's Exhibit A. Voss's words. Ledgers logged. But deeper, my mother's words. She produced Elena's letter, passing it to the bailiff, its contents projected. Love without ledgers. The gallery leaned in, flashes of a storm as Sophia continued, voice steady, Alex's hand waving like punctuation. Elena built on vision. Victor? Vengeance. Miscarriage myth? Forgery, per Voss. DNA dances. Distraction from felonies. We seek a protection order, a full injunction. Bar him from our lives, our son's shadow. Victor surged, Hargrove barely containing him, his shout raw over the objections. Lies. She's Elena's echo, thief of thrones. The boy hears it, blood calls. Chaos erupted. Gallery murmurs swelling to shouts, Vasquez's gavel a frantic metronome, bailiffs wading into the fray. Ethan stood, arm around Sophia, his presence a bulwark as Alex wailed, the infant's cry piercing the din like judgment. Vasquez banged finality, recess. Chambers, now, all counsel. In the judge's sanctum, a wood-paneled cocoon off the bench, tension simmered to boil. Vasquez shed her robe, revealing a blouse as sharp as her scrutiny, pouring coffee from a sideboard with hands that didn't shake. Compelling theater, she said dryly, eyeing Victor. But law, not legacy, governs. Voss testimony, damning if credible. Medicals subpoenaed. Expect results by week's end. Motion for DNA? Denied. Speculative, invasive. Visitation? Laughable sans relation. Audit. Possible but narrowed. Came in review only. No empire teardown. Hargrove blustered, Victor seething silent beside him. But Vasquez cut him off. And the stress factor, Ms. Reynolds, your child's welfare. This circus endangers. Sophia met her gaze, Alex quieting against her, thumb in mouth. Precisely, Your Honor. Protection order, immediate. He's breached perimeters, hacked records. Our family, not fodder. Vasquez nodded, scribbling notes. Granted, temporary, pending full hearing. Mr. Langford, one step from contempt. Bail is revoked if violated. Clear? Victor exploded then, shoving from the table, face contorted in a mask of unraveling rage. Clear? You blind fools! Elena's blood runs in him. Shell stole it all, like her mother stole me. Bailiffs swarmed, cuffing him mid-rant as Hargrove sputtered apologies, but Victor thrashed, eyes wild on Sophia, then Alex. Bridge burns, but embers linger. You'll see, blood calls. Dragged howling from chambers, his echoes chased them into the hall. Reporters exploding from side doors, mics thrusting as security hustled Sophia and Ethan toward the elevators. Victory? Partial. Pyrrhic. The injunction was a shield, but audit loomed. Media frenzy redoubled. Stocks dipped another point on the newswire. Legal limbo for billionaire brood. Back in the antechamber, Clara high-fived weakly. Voss held. Docs confirm his heart, not hysteria. But Victor, unhinged. Feeds show him ranting to handlers en route, rallying old allies, SEC whispers. Ethan pulled Sophia close, Alex between, the triad's warmth a fleeting fort. Unhinged wins wars sometimes. We bought time, use it. Complete audit prep and PR are pivotal to Elena's strength. But as elevators dinged, a shadow detached from the scrum. Voss's nurse slipping a thumb drive into Sophia's palm, eyes urgent. From Harlan, before sedation, last gift, Elena's contingency against Phoenix fire. Sophia pocketed it, heart pounding as they fled the courthouse, vans idling curbside amid flashing lights. The legal battle had drawn first blood, their blood, injunction ink fresh but fragile. Victor caged, but his echoes howled free, widening wounds in courts and corridors. As Alex babbled in the car seat, oblivious to the fray, Sophia felt the tremor. Battles won, but war waged on, the contingency a wild card in her pocket, Elena's final secret, ready to ignite or illuminate. The pressure peaked in that marble echo, but deeper currents swirled, pulling them toward the maelstrom's heart. The sterile hush of NYU Langone's cardiac wing wrapped around Sophia like a shroud as she approached Harlan Voss's room, the thumb drive from the nurse burning a hole in her palm. Ethan lingered in the hallway, his broad frame silhouetted against the fluorescent glare, phone to his ear as he coordinated with Clara on the injunction's fallout. Stocks stabilizing. Still, Victor's bail hearing loomed like a guillotine blade. Alex was home with a trusted nanny, under triple lockdown, his world shrinking to protect the innocence Victor sought to claim. The legal skirmish had bought breathing room, but the air felt thinner, with the ozone tang of revelations yet to detonate. Sophia paused at the door, steeling herself against the man who'd haunted her family's ledgers for decades. Voss, the mole-turned-martyr, his betrayal a foundational fracture in Williams Holdings. The room beyond was dim, monitors beeping a somber metronome. IV lines snaking across pale sheets. Voss lay propped like a deposed king, oxygen prongs fogging his mustache, eyes fluttering open at her approach, milky blue but sharpening with recognition. A flicker of Elena's ghost in his gaze. "Ms. Reynolds," he rasped, voice a gravel whisper amplified by the mask. "Or should I say, Elena reborn, come to finish the exorcism." Sophia pulled a chair close, her emerald dress pooling like spilled ink, the drive clutched in her lap like a talisman. Harlan Voss, the man who sold blueprints for a paycheck, testified to save my son. Why now, after 30 years of silence? He coughed, a wet rattle that shook the bedframe, waving off the nurse's water offer with a trembling hand. Silence? Ha! More like survival. Victor, he hollowed me. Phoenix burned bright, his rage my greed. Elena caught me, 2002, mid-wire to his Cayman nest. No cuffs, no headlines, just exile. Pension gutted, name erased. Lived in shadows since Jersey motels, ghost jobs. But the boy, Alex, saw your presser, that gummy grin. Reminded me of her laugh. Couldn't let Langford twist another soul. Sophia's fingers tightened on the drive, the cool metal grounding her as Pity Ward with principle. Twisted, you enabled him, Hudson sabotage, patent theft. Mom forgave you for that? Built walls around the wound? Voss's eyes welled, tears carving tracks down weathered cheeks, his breath hitching around the mask. Forgave? Number, freed, gave me a choice, testify clean or rot in his web. I chose rot, until the shipyard. He waved those vials, DNA fairy tales, ranting about grandnephew heirs. Saw Elena in you then, fire unbent. This, he nodded to the driver, her contingency. USB, Elena's kill switch. Contingency files, my confessions, signed. Forged docs from Victor, miscarriage letters, phony ledgers. And one more, her journal. Last entries, post-crash scare about you. About letting go. Sophia hesitated, the weight of it crushing. Elena's final words. Voss's redemption arc, a fragile bridge over the abyss. Why give it to me? Conditional mercy? Or clearing your ledger before the end? He chuckled, a phlegmy bubble that dissolved into coughs, the monitors spiking in protest. Ledger? Mine's ash. Yours, Phoenix, your mother dreamed. Victor unhinged, cancer, stage 4. Docs confirmed last week, pancreatic. Kept it from you, from his handlers. Fuel for the fire, he calls it. But it's fear, losing the last thread to Elena. The boy, Alex, he's his Hail Mary. Pardon me, Miss Reynolds. I enabled hell, now witness heaven. Forgive if you can. Conditional I. Tell him I recant. No mole glory. Just a man broken, seeking absolution. The words hung, a confession's exhale, and Sophia felt the dam crack. Pity blooming into something softer. Forgiveness a tentative olive branch extended not from weakness, but wisdom. Elena's light, unledgered. She rose, slipping the drive into her pocket, leaning to squeeze his liver-spotted hand. Absolution, earned in court, Harlan, but peace, that's yours. Rest, we'll handle the shadows. Outside, Ethan ended his call, brow furrowed as he fell into step. Clara says the injunction holds. Vasquez fast-tracked it, but Victor's team motions for an emergency hearing, medical compassion, cancer angle. Leaks already, page 6 teaser, dying tycoon fights for family ties. Sophia's pulse quickened, Voss's revelation a live wire, Victor's illness, the twisted mercy it demanded. Cancer, stage 4. Explains the frenzy, the desperation. Widens the pity play, public martyr, dying for his phantom son. Ethan's jaw clenched, old jealousy flaring like embers. Pity, for the man who hacked our ultrasounds. Let him rot in remission. But Sophia halted him in the corridor, hand on his arm, eyes fierce with the balance Elena preached. Rot, number. Fight fair, Ethan. Voss gave us the kill switch, Elena's files. We use it clean. Expose the forgeries, quash the claims. But Victor, he's dying. Conditional forgiveness, visitation, supervised, no equity strings. For Alex's sake, to close the circle without blood. Ethan recoiled, brown eyes storming. Forgiveness? After the cafe, the threats? He's poison. Sophia, Elena's cage, now ours. Alex deserves a clean slate, not this specter. She cupped his face, thumb tracing the tension in his jaw, voice a soothing cadence amid the beeps and bustle. Clean or scarred? Mom freed Voss and chose light over ledgers. We do the same. Supervised meetings, therapy mandated. No claims, no leaks. He fades on his terms, we rise on ours. For Alex, the boy who needs to know mercy, not just might. The argument simmered through the drive home. Ethan's silence a thunderhead, Sophia's resolve the quiet eye. At the estate, Clara greeted them in the foyer, laptop underarm, face alight with digital victory. Files decrypted, Elena's journal, raw, beautiful. Forgery proofs ironclad. Victor's handwriting forensics match his gala notes. And the board? Merger greenlit, emergency vote. Pressures pivoting, public polls shifting. 70% back to you after the baby bounce. Sophia nodded, handing off her coat as Alex's nanny emerged with the infant, his arms outstretched in gleeful demand. But Ethan lingered, gaze distant on the rain-streaked windows. Mercy. Its weakness masked as wisdom. He poisoned us once. Don't let him sip from our cup. She turned, Alex balanced on her hip, the child's warmth bridging their rift. Weakness? No, strength. Elena journaled it. Victor grieved but gripped. We release, conditional. He confesses on record, drops motions. Supervised park walks, no cameras. Therapy, monitored. Equity? Ours. He gets closure, Alex gets a lesson in grace. Ethan exhaled, stepping close to ruffle Alex's curls, the touch melting his frost. Grace, for the boy. Fine, but one slip he's dust. The call to Victor's counsel went out at dusk, an encrypted line from David's secure office, the elder Harlow observing like a hawk from the shadows. Hargrove answered, voice silk over static. Ms. Reynolds, bold, post-hearing. Terms? Sophia spoke clearly, Ethan at her side, Alex dozing in a bouncer nearby. Confession, full, recorded. Drop all motions, DNA, audit, and visitation claims. In exchange, supervised access, quarterly. No media, no equity whispers. Therapy, court-mandated, progress reports. Conditional forgiveness for the man dying, not the monster scheming. Silence stretched, broken by Hargrove's murmur, consulting, no doubt, Victor's rasp in the background. Then, accepted, with caveats. Medical proof, his stage 4, verified. And one meet, private, now. Neutral ground, Central Park, boathouse. Tonight. To seal verbally. Ethan tensed, but Sophia nodded to the phone. Sealed. 1 hour. The boathouse loomed under sodium lamps. Autumn leaves swirling like confetti in the chill wind off the lake. Rowers dormant on darkened water. Hargrove waited alone on a bench, trenchcoat flapping, his nod curt as Sophia and Ethan approached. Alex bundled deep in the stroller, a tiny sentinel between them. Victor emerged from the shadows then, gaunt in a cashmere overcoat, chemo pallor sharpening his features to bone. Eyes, those ice blues, locked on the stroller with a hunger tempered by finality. "Sophia," he breathed, voice a threadbare whisper, stepping close but halting at Ethan's warning glare. "The boy. May I?" Ethan bristled, but Sophia nodded, lifting Alex into her arms, the infant blinking owlishly at the stranger. Victor reached, tentative, fingers brushing the child's cheek, a touch feather-light, reverent. So like her, Elena's eyes, in miniature. Sophia watched, heart twisting at the vulnerability cracking his facade. No mogul, just man. Mortality stripping pretense. Harlan told us, cancer, stage 4. Why the war, Victor? With this end? He withdrew his hand, eyes glistening as Alex cooed, oblivious. War? Survival. Elena took my light, grief, legacy. Forged the loss to chain her, yes, shame confesses now. But you, carrying her fire, his echo. Thought to reclaim through him, dying, clarifies, no thrones left, just this, touching what might have been. Ethan's voice rumbled low. It might have ended here. Confession taped, motions dropped. Supervised, parks, holidays, no strings. Victor nodded, a ghost of a smile ghosting his lips. Strings severed. Mercy, conditional, as you say. For the boy, teach him grace, not grudges. And Sophia, tell Elena, in your heart, I release. The words hung, a benediction brittle as frost, and Sophia felt the circle close, not with triumph, but tenderness, forgiveness, a key turning in rusted locks. We will. Go in peace, Victor. He turned, melting into the gloom toward Hargrove's waiting car, a silhouette shrinking against the lamp's glow. Ethan pulled her close, Alex between, the triad's warmth defying the wind. Mercy, it fits you, he murmured. Jealousy's embers cooled to ash. Sophia leaned in, kissing his jaw. Fits us, conditional, earned. Now, home, to light, not ledgers. But as taillights faded, Clara's text buzzed. One anomaly, Victor's car, deviated route. Shadow tail? The forgiveness landed soft, but ripples stirred. Conditional chains, perhaps, with links unseen. Sophia held Alex tighter in the boathouse hush, the night's peace fragile as dawn's first light, wondering if release truly freed or widened the abyss for what lurked beyond. The Central Park boathouse receded in the rearview mirror like a fading dream, its lamplight swallowed by the encroaching night, as Sophia and Ethan's Escalade purred toward the Upper East Side safehouse, a nondescript brownstone fortified with Nash Tech and Williams vigilance. Alex dozed in his car seat, thumb lodged firmly in his mouth, oblivious to the fragile truce they'd forged with Victor under the autumn stars. Conditional forgiveness hung in the air like mist off the lake. Mercy granted, but laced with the sharp edge of vigilance. Ethan drove with one hand on the wheel, the other entwined with Sophia's thumb, tracing absent patterns on her skin, a silent ward against the lingering doubts. Clara's text had come mid-turn onto Fifth Avenue. Deviation confirmed. Victor's car veered east, Brooklyn Bridge, not Jersey. Shadowtail acquired. Blackstone drone feed live. Sophia glanced at her phone, the grainy aerial looping a black sedan weaving through traffic, taillights blurring into the Queensboro span. He's not heading home, she murmured, zooming the map overlay. Boathouse was a theater. Seal the deal, then bolt. But east? Warehouse District again? Ethan accelerated smoothly, weaving past a yellow cab, his jaw tightening in the dashboard glow. Theater, yes, but for whom? Hargrove looked shell-shocked. Didn't expect the cancer card to land so soft. Victor's playing deeper game, maybe rallying holdouts from Langford Tech, who bolted post-merger. Or worse, our insiders, the board whispers, David flagged. Sophia's grip tightened on the phone, and Alex's soft snuffle from the back was a grounding hum. Insiders. The anomaly Clara caught was Nash's moles feeding him clinic schedules and our routes. If David's right, it's not just Victor, it's a syndicate. We need him, your father. Whole alliance, no half measures. Ethan nodded, punching David's secure line on the dash console. The ringtone, a staccato pulse matching their quickening breaths. David answered on the second buzz, voice gravel over engine roar, his Bentley, mid-Manhattan. Sophia? Ethan. Talk. Clara's feed hit my board. Deviation means double cross. Sophia leaned into the mic, voice steady and steel. No cross, yet. Boathouse sealed the truce, confession, dropped motions, supervised meets. But his car was eastbound, fast. We think warehouse rally, old Langford crew. And the insider leak, it's widening. We need you, David. United Front, Nash and Williams, full merger acceleration. Buy out Langford's remnants, starve the beast. Silence stretched, broken by David's low chuckle, a rare rumble, laced with the old lion's cunning. Starve the beast. Elena's girl through and through. Fine, alliance sealed. My jets are fueled at Teterboro. We will meet at the estate in 2 hours. I'll pull strings. SEC will fast-track the Phoenix audit and bury Victor's Cayman ghosts under Nash paperwork. But Ethan, son, this means you step up. CEO interim. Boards demanding it post-hearing. No more prodigal. Time to reign. Ethan's knuckles whitened on the wheel, the prodigal heir's shadow lengthening. But he glanced at Sophia, her nod fierce, Alex's sleeping form a crown of conviction. Interim it is. For the family, for Alex. The estate gates parted like jaws at their approach, floodlights bathing the drive in stark white as David's Bentley idled ahead, engine ticking cool. Clara burst from the foyer, laptop in tow, her ponytail askew from hours hunched over feeds. Drones locked, Victor's sedan ditched in Red Hook, foot team on his trail. But get this, cargo van, unmarked, picked him up. Plates traced to a Shell, Langford holdover, but the driver, familiar. Pulled manifests. It's Harlan Voss's nephew, disgruntled ex-Langford engineer. Rally confirmed. Shed meeting, 10 holdouts, pitching a Phoenix 2.0. Hostile bid on Williams real estate scraps. David emerged from his car, overcoat swirling like a cape, his silver mane catching the light as he strode forward, clapping Ethan's shoulder with a bone-crushing grip. Phoenix 2.0? Amateurs. We counter with Hydra. Cut 1 head, 2 grow. Merger papers drafted. Nash absorbs Williams' REI division and crossholds on tech patents. Bulletproofs Alex's trusts, irrevocable, offshore but transparent. But the ally play. He turned to Sophia, eyes appraising the fire in hers. Voss's files. Elena's contingency. You holding? Sophia nodded, extracting the drive from her pocket. Its weight now a weapon forged in forgiveness. Holding and wielding. Confessions, forgeries, her journal. But conditional. Voss recants the mole glory and testifies clean. Victor gets his piece, we get the purge. David's grin was wolfish, ushering them inside where the grand study awaited, a war room of leather armchairs and wall screens pulsing with market data. Clara syncing feeds to the central display. Alliance inked. David at the head, Ethan flanking, Sophia opposite, with Alex now awake and babbling on a playmat amid legal pads. The merger blueprint unfurled. Nash Tech infusing Williams properties, smart cities rising from the ashes of old feuds, billions in synergies projected like battle maps. But the unexpected ally struck at 9 sharp. David's secure line trilled, caller ID flashing a ghost, Harlan Voss, from his hospital bed, voice frail but fierce over the speaker. Mr. Harlow, Miss Reynolds, heard the rally chatter, my nephew, the fool. Phoenix 2.0. Tell Victor it's Ash. I flip full, testimony, manifests, the lot. Conditional, my sister's boy gets a clean slate, a Nash scholarship, and no Langford taint. Sophia leaned in, Alex crawling toward the sound with gummy determination. Mr.
Voss, why? After the betrayal?